Welcome to Creating Momentum and welcome to Balance Central. This is my lovely room. I've been running this series all year and this is webinar series number 3. And this one has a particular theme. And I wanted to introduce that theme to you tonight. It is all around the principle of love. Now, when I advertised this webinar a few weeks ago on LinkedIn, somebody actually asked me, is that anything to do with the five languages of love? And I thought that's a great question. And I thought I'd just qualify that in this introduction, just to give us all a sense of the difference of what is the 5 love languages and what I'm going to be talking about, which is the principle of love. So the 5 love languages are really the way we communicate love and the way that we receive love. But the principle of love is the filter with all the experiences that we've had of love, that we see love in the circumstances outside of us, and the filter that lets us see the love that we see in others and that we want to give to others. So it's really the principle of love is our filter, which is, it has an impact on the way we communicate love, but it's really dealing with the filter that we have in front of us. And that's what I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about tonight. So this is number 3 in the Creating Momentum webinar series, and it is one of my favorites, and I'm going to be sharing a very personal story. The anticipation was building, all the unknowns were just everywhere, and quite honestly, we were just simply excited. It was May 1999, and I just started maternity leave. It was a very exciting time in our life, and essentially we were on holidays, really. Well, that's what it felt like. And we had the nursery to build, and we needed to buy a cot and baby clothes and get a change table. We had everything still to do because we had 8 weeks. I was 30 weeks pregnant. We still had 2 months ahead of us to get everything in place. Off we went to our normal doctor's appointment and we got some surprising news. Wasn't necessarily bad news, but it was surprising. We found out that this baby was coming early. So instead of having 8 weeks, we now had 2. Actually, we had less than 2. We had about 10 days. So I was on bed rest and we really didn't do much except just rest. So when my daughter was born, I still remember that moment that they handed her to me and I held her for the first time. For me, it was the strongest, deepest feeling of love that I had ever felt. I can't fully explain the depth of it, but boy, did I feel it. And I still remember it to this day. And that was lovely. I got to spend half an hour with her before she went away into a humidity crib for a few days so that they could monitor her. And I also needed to do some recovery. So we had about a week in hospital separately. And it also meant that in that week, my husband was tasked with going and getting the cot, the clothes, the change table, and getting that nursery set up. So off he went and he did that. And then a week later, we came home. As much as we were excited and we jumped into the deep end of parenthood, I'd missed out on that preparation and that planning and all of that excitement that we'd built prior to this. And our lives were changed forever. And this experience still stays with me today. And it actually impacts me every single day. The reason I wanted to share that story is that it is absolutely relevant to everything I do in my professional life. And I put it to you that there is a story in your life that is totally related to love that also plays out professionally for you. And often when we have had an intense experience of love, good or bad, it actually becomes part of us, and it's part of our filter that we are looking through. And it's part of the filter that allows us to make decisions moving forward. It allows us to make decisions about where we want to work. It allows us to make decisions around whether we love the work that we do. And it gives us a capacity, good or bad, to allow more ease in both our personal and professional life. But sometimes in those experiences, we can get a little bit messy. From my experience of having my daughter, I can tell you there was still some messy things. I had lots of anticipation. I had lots of unknowns. I didn't get to do everything I wanted to do, and yet I felt this extreme love for her. So now I've got this filter that says anticipation, confusion, don't get to plan everything, and yet I love it. Oh, that's a bit tough to work out. And that's why our principle of love can stop the momentum of the choices that we are making in our life. But we have a solution. And the first thing I look at is what we need to, where we are and who we are. So I'm going to share my screen and run through some slides with you. So we need to discover, who are you? Now, we all know generally that answer to that question. We know we know our age and our gender, and we know who we are. Probably define ourselves by our profession. That's fine. But I'm talking about a deeper, who are you? And to look at that, I want to look at 4 aspects. There's people that are generally wrapped up and very enthusiastic about discovering things. That's their primary function, and they love doing it. They love to expand things. Then there's the people who love embracing. They embrace ideas, they include others, they care about other people, they embrace ideas to the nth degree. Then we have some people who sit in the essentials. They're the ones that actually are very grounded. They like to probably be a little quieter in life. They sense what's needed. They allow time for things to manifest. They're not necessarily the first ones to put their hand up and volunteer, because they're just sensing that maybe others need to go first. So there's some people in the essentials category. And then we have perceptive. These people know where they want to go. They have a direction set, they know what it is, and they're on that pathway, and there's really no stopping them. And they don't really let any other ideas or people or anything else get in the way. They're just on that track. And we often feel like, exactly the way that I've just described it there, that you will feel connected to 1 or 2 of those examples that I've given. However, I'm going to challenge the idea a little bit. All 4 of those categories, we do all of those 4 things all of the time, and particularly when it comes to our professional life and decision making that we are bringing to our professional life. So, I'm moving on to the brick wall. When we use discovery energy, and those people that are discovery people, they know what this is. They're going to discover which way to get over that wall, around that wall, underneath that brick wall. They are going to discover every single idea that they can come up with to find a way through that. And they will break through that block in their decision making by just coming up with more and more ideas. And that's great. They can use that energy to do that. The next energy that you can use to get through a brick wall is embracing. Just embrace everything that that brick wall is. And with that amount of power, essentially you just knock the brick wall over and you just walk over the other side. That's also a way to get through your decision-making blocks. Then we have the essential energy. So the essentials will have a look at this brick wall and they'll just sense which brick needs to be bashed out first so that it'll weaken the wall, and then they can just move through it. But they'll probably take a little bit more time. And sometimes in decision making, we can feel the pressure of having to make quick decisions. But if we're using essential energy, they can just be helpful to slow down that decision making process. And then we have the perceptive people. They just know that if they just walk around the side of that brick wall, they'll be back on that pathway that they just know they need to get to. So all of those four energies can be used when we have blocks to decision making in our professional life. And as much as you will still be relating to at least one of those, we actually will use all of them. We all need to discover new ideas. We need to embrace that idea to make it helpful and useful. We need to find out what is the essential importance of that. And we need to know the pathway that we're going to use to achieve the end result that we want. And this is how we can use the deep methodology to get through those brick walls that stop us making decisions. And ultimately, making decisions stops our momentum, particularly in our work life. What I'm just going to do is link this principle of love back to this deep methodology. So that principle of love is this filter that we have. And what happens in the experience of the filter and the experience of love is that I'll use my story as an example. I actually got very caught in the discovery. Everything was new in that experience. I was discovering everything about a new baby and how I behaved with having a new baby and how my husband behaved with having a new baby. There was a lot of discovery going on. And so we were in this bubble of just heightened discovery, which meant that in that period of time, my professional life didn't have a lot of grounding in it. I was just discovering that there was this new idea over there, here, and this one, and this one, and this one. And so when we go through a really strong experience of love, that filter dictates how we make decisions moving forward. Okay, so we now know those four energies that we can use to get past our brick wall. And that's great. That helps us make decisions and allow us to move forward in even the tiny decisions that we have to make on a day-to-day basis. But we all know that in our professional life, there's a bit of a buzzword, and it's this word, collaboration. Now, in a work environment, we often see collaboration as with other people. We need to collaborate with other team members. We need to collaborate with other managers. We need to collaborate with other businesses quite regularly. And isn't it great when that collaboration is really nicely aligned and that person that's sitting across the table from you has the same set of values and you just feel really connected? And that is really effective when it comes to our professional life. But here's another idea for you. We need to collaborate also within our own system. So just think about it. If we are collaborating well, let's just go with head, heart, and gut. I'll go back to my story. I obviously had my heart well engaged in that story. And I probably had a lot of gut, very nicely engaged. That mother instinct kicked in. Both my heart and my gut were very, very active and aligned. But my head oh, it was a bit messy. I had all that, things had come early, I was unplanned, I couldn't make sense of everything, there was a whole lot of new things to learn. It was just, it was seriously hard going. I was sleep deprived. The brain does not work when you're sleep deprived, I can guarantee you. And so I was disconnected from my head. So this simple collaboration of my gut and my heart and my head was not working well. So when I then walk into a professional environment and I've only got two parts of me connected and collaborating well, and my head's not collaborating well, it doesn't have a very good outcome. It's a bit like having three people sitting around a table. Two are on the same page and the third person, you just don't even, they're just not there. So it's really important that within ourselves, we also get collaboration happening. The other area that had a bit of a knock for me in that particular story of my personal principles of love was my personal power had been knocked. It had been knocked because I didn't get to choose the things that went into her nursery. I didn't get to choose the colour of the cot. I didn't get to choose the clothes that she was going to wear home from hospital. And so my empowerment had been kind of knocked a little. And so that also wasn't collaborating well with all parts of me. And so for the first 6 months, I can guarantee you I did not show up well in that environment. And until I actually got all of that sorted out through the principle of love, I actually didn't show up particularly well in every work environment that I turned up in either, because those parts had stopped collaborating. So it was really important for me to get those back into alignment and to be working well together, like any good collaboration. So moving into what I want to finish this off with, which is this quote: experience is power. For when you have experienced something new, something different, your perspective shifts. Certainly did in my case. And you see everything from new eyes. But it is important to ensure that you're internally aligned so that that perspective is really clear as well. So just before you go, I'll just stop this share and come back to be able to talk to you personally. When I created this webinar series, as some of you may know, I am associated with it was an organisation, it's now referred to as a movement. It's called the B1G1 movement. And it is a way for me to give back on a global scale. Now, I've been involved in this movement for 8 or 9 years now, and it is absolutely joyous. Every transaction I do with them, every cent I give to B1G1 goes directly to a small project somewhere around the world, and I get to choose which project that is. And in the last 8 years, I have been able to create over 1.7 million impacts. And that's amazing. And I do celebrate that number because I think that is a phenomenal legacy to leave. However, it provides a challenge. And the challenge is to come up with new ways to be able to give back. And I want to share that this webinar and all of you that are on the webinar tonight have allowed me to come up with a new way of giving. So simply because you showed up here tonight, we have been able to give. What happened is that I looked on the B1G1 dashboard to find out what project I might choose in relation to this webinar. And the first category that jumped out at me was one called Life Enhancement. And that was just perfect because really I want to enhance your life. So that made sense. And then I needed to find the project. And what I found was a project around giving vitamins to kids. And the reason that they give the vitamins to the kids is to prevent blindness. And I thought, that is so good. These webinars for me is about opening your eyes to new ways of thinking, opening your eyes to new ideas, and ultimately opening your eyes to being able to see everything that you have around you. And so it was a perfect connection for me to give through that particular project. So thank you. We have been able to provide 800 doses of vitamins to kids in Kenya to prevent blindness. I just think that's amazing, simply because you spent 20 minutes, half an hour with me today. So thank you.